So hello, what is up? What is good on the internet, in sports, in life? I'm Akeem Balaam for The Real Sports Talk, recapping not only the Daytona 500, but also the weekend it was in NASCAR in Daytona, and it concluded, of course, with the Great American Race. And we have our winner. It is the number 48 of Hendrick Motorsports, Jimmie Johnson. He is your winner of the 2013 Daytona 500, just barely holding, I wouldn't say just barely, but he did hold off Dale Earnhardt Jr., his teammate from Hendrick, who was able to make a late charge, try to get him to the front, but Jimmie Johnson was able to hold him off, and he is your victor of the Daytona 500 in Florida. And definitely a way to start the season for him, especially after considering the way that last year ended for him. We all know how last year ended for him when he was in a tight race for the Sprint Cup Championship with the eventual champion Brad Keselowski. We know what happened to him the past couple of races when he wound up with DNFs and things like that. Actually wound up finishing third last year behind, if I'm not mistaken, he wound up finishing third last year behind Brad Keselowski and Clint Bowyer. But Jimmie Johnson is indeed your winner of the Daytona 500. But even with everything, even with the fact that Jimmie Johnson has won, it seemed like that he's definitely going to be overshadowed. And he was even overshadowed all this week. I mean, leading up to the Daytona 500 today, I didn't even think that there were actually 43 drivers in the race, because all the hoopla, and some of it warranted, was all about Danica Patrick. It was all about Danica this, Danica that, Danica. I mean, they had to give out extra media credentials because so many people were coming to this race just to see Danica. Just to the fact that, Danica was starting in the pole position, they wanted to know how Danica was going to do. And she wound up leading a lap. In fact, I think she wound up leading 6 laps. So Danica Patrick definitely made history by leading 6 laps. Actually became the first woman to lead in any Sprint Cup race to lead a lap under green. So even though Jimmie Johnson won the race, there's probably going to be more talked about what Danica did even than what Jimmie Johnson did, because leading up to this race, I did not even know that there were actually 43 drivers. I knew that, everything was about Danica this week, but Jimmie Johnson, of course, turned out to be your winner. Throughout the race, it just, it seemed like even though there were several leaders, as there are in any race, it just seemed like that there were a lot of long stretches of the race that just did not seem all that much exciting. I mean, there was also talk about how the drivers were going to do with this new Gen 6 car and how it was going to do on a restrictor plate speedway track like Daytona. We're going to see, of course, once again when they go to Talladega, because there are 4 of these super speedway races, 2 in Daytona, 2 in Dega. We're going to see how this new Gen 6 car is going to do when it gets to Talladega, Alabama. But there were a couple of moments in the race there where there were a couple of wrecks, I should say. Kyle Busch was involved in one. Tony Stewart was involved. And Carl Edwards, everybody's talking about Carl Edwards, the fact that now, over these 10 weeks, he's now wrecked 5 race cars, as far as that's concerned. So definitely not a good way to end all these 10 weeks in Florida for Carl Edwards. But definitely, there were a lot of drivers. There are a lot of top-tier drivers, and some of the more, that are with some of the more richer teams, like say Richard Childress or Joe Gibbs Racing, or even Stuart Haas. Even though Ryan Newman wound up finishing in the top 10, there were a lot of, and I say Stuart Haas because they obviously get their engines from Hendrick, but there are a lot of drivers like Tony Stewart and Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch and Carl Edwards and a few others that, because of the fact that they were involved in earlier wrecks, they didn't really finish all that well. Some drivers that I'm really glad really did finish well. I mean, when you look at the way that this turned out, Jimmie Johnson finished first, Dale Earnhardt Jr. second. Mark Martin also almost got a win. He's, of course, with Michael Waltrip Racing. He finished third. The defending champ, Keselowski, he was in fourth. Ryan Newman, fifth. Regan Smith, who's with Finch Racing, he actually finished seventh. Phil Parsons Racing's very own Michael McDowell, he finished ninth. J.J. Yeley finished in the 10th spot. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., even though he's with Roush Fenway Racing now, he finished 12th, and definitely a driver to look out in the future. But certainly, I think one of the stories, in addition to Jimmie Johnson winning this race, is going to be the fact that there are some drivers that, because the Tony Stewarts and the Kevin Harvicks of the world were involved, and the Kyle Busches of the world were involved in earlier wrecks, that it certainly provided an opportunity for drivers that that are with teams that don't have all of that Charlotte money that, say, Roush and Hendrick and Childress have. There were certainly some teams like that of Tommy Baldwin Racing, J.J. Yelly, Regan Smith, and Michael McDowell definitely had impressive finishes as well in Daytona. But your winner is once again the number 48, Jimmie Johnson. Once again, congrats to Hendrick, Jimmie Johnson, Chad Knaus for winning the 2013 Daytona 500. What did you think of the race? Did you watch it from start to finish? Rate, comment, react, reply, add, and subscribe. What you think of Jimmie Johnson? What you think of Danica Patrick? And what you think of the weekend overall? It wasn't the best of weekends, of course, for NASCAR, considering what had happened in the nationwide race with that wreck that wound up injuring 28, and I think there was even a report that they thought one person was even killed in that wreck, but I think that they later on determined that that person was in stable condition, if I'm not mistaken, but I'll have to double check on that. So definitely an exciting way to end the Daytona 5, end the weekend in Daytona, even if it was not necessarily the best of races, rather the best of weekends for the sport of auto racing. So once again, I'm just one guy talking about sports on the Real Sports Talk. I want to know what you think of Jimmie Johnson, Danica Patrick, everything else, the whole week in general, and next week also, obviously going to Phoenix for the second race of the season. So until next time, I'm Akeem Balaam for the Real Sports Talk, for Tim Kelly, Justin Godsey, Emily Groover, Section 215, and everybody else. See you on the internet somewhere.